Our speaker today is not only the VP of Engineering at Headspace, an app at the forefront of mental health, but was CTO at Heal, worked at Snapchat, and held many roles within Microsoft. Over her career, she's been a big supporter and promoter of diversity, back in Microsoft when she founded Women in Azure, and she also started the LA Women Tech Executives. So I'm excited to learn from her insights into team and organizational agility. So please welcome our first speaker, Bhavini Soneji.
Hi, Lee and Andy. Thank you so much. I'm very thrilled to be here and having this opportunity to share my experiences while learning from others. For today's topic, I'm going to talk about organizational and team efficiency. It's something that I'm very passionate about and very core to my heart. I will start with what makes an effective organization, and we'll go into what are the pillars and principles around organizational effectiveness and structuring it. And last, I would like to go into a couple of possible organization structures and where and how they are applicable. But the caveat here is that there is no one size that fits all in my mind. It's an art of fine-tuning to meet the challenges and aligning to the vision. You need to craft your team to match the phase of the company. In an early stage of a startup, focus is on speed of release rather than processes and architecting for scale. But as the startup begins to scale, there's a focus on product, technology depth, and quality. Process starts to actually matter. With that, let's dive into the 4 attributes which are critical to driving effective organization. The first one being customer. Starting with the why and being curious and obsessed with customer. My mindset is you don't take a solution to the team, take the problem to them and bring them along the journey. Engineers are by default problem solvers. If you tell an engineer, build me a wheel, they will. But if you tell them the problem, that is, you want to steer a boat, they might surprise you. The second one is talent. Who is delivering customer value? You want to attract and retain talent for today with an eye for tomorrow. People are our number one asset and investment. Fostering a learning mindset with mentoring, coaching, and nurturing leaders is a win-win for people and the company. The next one is culture, which constitutes how to deliver the customer value. The way to drive productivity for talent is having a culture of one team and fostering trust and empowerment. You want to have a streamlined communication and alignment to make sure everyone is rowing in the same direction. Creating an environment of psychological safety that enables risk-taking and fosters transparency is key. The last, but not the least, is drive for results. This is what constitutes what we are building to deliver the customer value. And one of the aspects here is follow-throughs on our learnings rather than just pursuing the next key shiny object. Driving scalable tooling and technology innovation powered by data-driven and customer-driven decision-making. This is what ultimately drives the top-line growth in revenue and margin improvement by driving efficiency leading to a better bottom line. With these in mind, let's go over some of the pillars that you would keep in mind as part of the organizational structuring. The areas that come to my mind are people come first. People are our most important investment, so how do we leverage them to the maximum? First is streamlining communication, because otherwise, even if you have a great engine, it won't be smooth. People are our leaders. Invest in growing leaders, it results in cumulative exponential impact. And how do you drive that? Is by motivating, knowing and optimizing for the individual strength and aspiration, and driving clarity of ownership and decision making. Next comes the healthy practices that will foster efficiency and help us utilize our people to the fullest. Customer shadowing and empowering the team with context and problems rather than solutions in a situation where we had instilled shadowing every quarter. It was super impactful, and engineers would come and fix the friction bugs themselves without being told, and were equipped on solutions that would benefit the customer. Not only that, it is motivating for them to see how their work is simplifying customers' lives. Driving a culture of innovation and data-driven decision making is key and has to be embodied by the whole company. The last area in my mind is the structure and the size of the organization. Secret sauce is aligning organization to the company strategy. This will ensure that everyone is rowing in the same direction. Also, this cannot be done in a vacuum and has to be in tight partnership with product, design, data, engineering, operating as one team. Size guide is an important factor in this. Based on the org maturity, the company and individual team sizes may vary. But the average rule of thumb that I've usually followed through is the 2 pizza team size. Once you have these principles, now comes the part of measuring and adjusting. Just like product development, once you have a hypothesis, you experiment it, then you measure the impact and iterate. It's a loop and a feedback mechanism. You want to apply that same philosophy into an organization. So what are the metrics for measuring organizational effectiveness and validating impact of the changes? I've broken these down into 3 areas. The first, of all employee engagement, which covers happiness, constituting culture, communication lines, and clarity of ownership and career development. The things you want to measure here are promo and retention percentages and diversity distribution to determine organizational health. Second is customer satisfaction. Listening to customers, delivering value to customers. Nothing drives momentum to the team and company more than releasing value prop frequently. Fast detect and response for any customer issues drives trust. And you want to be able to measure these and share them with the team so you can see the investment that's being made and how it's moving the needle. The last, business growth. This is what ultimately drives the top line growth in revenue and margin improvement by driving efficiency, leading to a better bottom line. With these measures of what, let's go into how you go about collecting this. The key here is soliciting input through different ways to cater to the diverse styles of people and their preferences. You have to do that extra mile to go and seek this feedback. Some people might be better at giving input one-on-one versus others might be better through an anonymous survey. So you want to make sure you have a pretty good tool set to cater to these different channels of input. I've split these into 2 categories, quantitative and qualitative. For quantitative, these can be impromptu tools put together quickly or something using dedicated tools. At one of the companies here, I had done this with a Google form and repeated it every quarter using the same questionnaire and shared the results with the team. This transparency enabled teams to see the bigger picture of challenges and partner with them on the changes we should be focusing and prioritizing. The team was feeling so proud to see the outcome of the changes. Similarly, at Headspace, we use Glint feedback tool and do it every 6 months. And we saw a 10 plus point improvement in engagement numbers. This validates the changes that are being made and the transparency that we are heading in the right direction. Qualitative metrics. In addition to the standard one-on-one, skip level one-on-ones, etc., I do monthly roundtables with my tech leads and chapter leads, which has been effective to see the pattern and hear the challenges the teams are facing, as well as enables sharing tips or tricks that's working in one place, which can be adopted widely. The way we do that is just first, everyone just shares an aha moment, an insight, a learning, an observation. And then we do 10-minute time boxed on what is keeping up at night, what is keeping you at night. So whoever wants to bring an area of item that they need help, we go and talk and time box for 10 minutes. And it has helped us discover so many patterns. With the measurements now in place, let's go into when and how often to realign or reorg. Before we get into this, I want to drive home one key point. A reorg can be as simple as just small fine-tuning of the teams, or on the other side of the spectrum, it could be an elaborate restructuring. If you see the evolution of software cycles, it has evolved from long multi-year releases to quarterly, monthly, and from long waterfall planning to agile. The saying, what got you here isn't necessarily what will get you to the next phase, is apt here. You need to evolve organization and processes to address the needs of the next phase of the company. Now, from the traditional aspect of these long releases and long planning cycles, the mindset people have is these, org structures that will stay static. And that's where reorg triggers fear, unless people understand this is a norm and expect it. So make change as part of the culture, celebrate it, and plan for it. This has to be something that becomes the foremost aspect. When you determine a reorg is needed, it is best to make that as part of the strategic planning and involving key stakeholders and bringing them along in shaping it. Something to watch out for during the reorgs. Optimize for existing working relationship and team composition. It takes a while for the teams to go through the storming and norming phase, and this aspect will speed up the turnaround that you want. The next is ensure domain knowledge is not lost in the reorg. And how do you keep an eye on good composition of junior seniors within a team so that they can have mentorship, leadership opportunities within the team? And a mix of personalities, diversity mix, and people's aspirations. Above all, transparency and communication of why and what and when. Let's now go into some of the organizational structures. Convoy's law comes to my mind, which is your products will mirror your organization structure. Embrace the fact. The ability to right size your product teams for the challenges your company faces is a secret weapon. Now, in these models and structures, the options will vary. The big one to keep in mind is you have to adapt to the size and stage of the company and individual preference and leadership styles. Before we go into the organization structure, let's look into the working model for product development teams. The way I've classified this is what we adopt is squads and chapters. What are squads? These are the cross-function mixed-platform group that's working on product slice or business problem. It has an end, people also refer to it as agile teams. It has an end-to-end accountability to deliver on the value prop or feature. Each of these squads are a group of people working on a product slice. Example, community feature or platform area working on identity management, etc. Or a group moving the growth conversion metrics. They usually work in 2 sprints with daily stand-ups. There's a tech lead per squad leading these efforts. Chapters. Chapters are grouped by platform. Example, iOS chapter, Android chapter, API chapter. The accountability is to drive consistent patterns and best practices for that platform through knowledge sharing and excelling health of the code base. There could be 1 or 2 chapter leads driving this or rotating leads. Now, keeping this in mind, how do you structure the reporting and organization? Which employee reports to which manager? What is the manager accountable for? So we have it as 2 models. One is the chapter manager, and the other one is squad manager. Each having different applicability based on the size, phase of the company, and leadership styles in the company. So let's dive into chapter managers. Chapter manager is when you have managers leading each platform. And the managers are accountable to drive chapter patterns along with people growth. This works in the initial stages of the company, when the size of the company is small, such that squad areas are changing quite frequently, and you want more flexibility while optimizing for employee-manager relationship stability. And as you see from the diagram, you have the squads, but you have people, all iOS reporting to iOS manager, and then all Android reporting to all Android manager. And then they come together as a working group in the squad with a tech lead. This model has challenges when you have to scale. When the number of squads become bigger, it is going to cause friction into the communication lines, and it is going to cause friction in the decision making and ownership. But it is great, as I said, when you want to do it at the starting phases when things are changing quite rapidly and you don't have a clarity on what these squads are, or these squad groups are changing quite frequently. So let's go into the second model, which is the squad managers as the reporting channel. So when you have the squad managers, they are accountable for end-to-end delivery on the customer business problem delivered by the squad along with people growth. This one works great as you scale the organization. To have these autonomous smaller teams that have clarity on the ownership of the end-to-end value prop being delivered. And this one has a tight partnership and one-on-one with the PM, because now the manager is responsible for that squad, and the manager has much more visibility into the employees and their day-to-days, such that the feedback coaching mechanism is also much more efficient, and they are all having the same alignment of the OKR or the charter or the ownership of the squad. At Headspace, when we were small, we had the chapter manager, and as we entered the growth phase, we shifted to squad managers to address communication and decision-making challenges that we were running into the previous chapter manager model. And when we did that, we were keeping some of the things that I outlined earlier in the mind on, aligning with the vision, aligning with the strategy, and making sure the communication and transparency is there around the why. And more than ever, measure it. What are the things that are challenges? How are we measuring it? And once we make the change, we went back and looked at, did those measurements change, to show us that these changes were effective and in the right direction. Also, as our strategy and planning frequently mature, having the squad managers structured suited well, driving team belonging and trust. The squad model also works seamlessly as we transition to working remotely during the COVID outbreak. Now, there are different ways over here in this squad manager where you could have multiple squads being part of the same manager as you expand. And this is where the sizing also matters. There might be some squads that might be more small to medium. And as they grow into large, you then want to start breaking up into smaller squads, because there is the sizing where what ratio that has worked for us is, how do you make sure you either have at least one of iOS, Android, and API when the squad and the area of ownership is focused and small. But as you expand, you want two iOS, two Android, two API. If you have web, then web as well, because that enables to make sure that you are having fallback mechanism. You don't have single point of failure. And it helps to support existing functionality that the squad owns while making sure there is work and traction on some of the new value prop that we want to deliver. With this in mind, I wanted to kind of close the loop on where we started, focusing on these tenets for every decision about the organization, starting with the customer, fostering talent growth, build a culture of one team with data-driven and customer-driven decision-making, and that is continuously delivering results through scaling and innovation. Strengthening cross-functional teams, processes, and foundation isn't exciting, but it's key to innovation. With the last closing, I just wanted to say, be courageous and creative to pay the way with a structure and process that will work for your company's unique needs. I wanted to leave some time for question answer, if there are any.